blurring the lines between real life and Second Life. Bringing you in-depth information about the people behind the avatars. Giving you insight like you've never heard before. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fourth Wall with Paul and BK.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fourth Wall. I am the scumbag superstar Paul Slater, alongside my podcast partner BK, and Z is not with us again today. BK, I'm pretty excited. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why real quick. All right.
You always tell me why.
A few months back when we had that podcast with Oliver and Mad Mike, I said a thing in that podcast that Oliver Wonderful, back then he was known as Alex Nightmare. He was one of the two people when I joined SL Wrestling that I instantly enjoyed watching. Guess what, BK?
What?
The other guy's here today.
The other guy?
The other guy that I enjoyed watching when I first started SL, I'm like, man, this guy's got it. This guy's good. He's here today, and I'm excited.
The other guy. Oh! Look, I'm looking across from me, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Before we introduce him, though, really quick, I just want to let everybody know the reason why Z is not here is her mom in real life, some medical issues. Biopsy came back, not good news. Don't know the details. They are talking about home care, so thoughts and prayers go out to Z, real life, and her family. Okay, but let's get back to why we are here. Yes, you mentioned this man many, many times. His name has come up several times, not just as a guest suggestion, but anytime that you and I have an opportunity to talk to people in the SLWC, this man's name comes up a lot. So apparently he has forged his legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, what else can we say? The man, I know we said this before, we got the man, the myth, the legend, the icon, the one that all the men want to be and all the women want to be with. We can say the EVP, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the owner of Honor Wrestling, Hammer, is in the house today. Hammer, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm not actually the owner though. The owners of the Fed, Kat Monroe, Karen Darkwatch.
Okay, well, see, we never heard of them, so you're gonna get the credit today.
Yeah.
Just make sure you let them know. No disrespect. We're just having fun. So, yeah. Hammer, your name has come up several times, but people want to hear what you have to say. You have been around for a while, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. Tell us about your journey in SL Wrestling.
All right. Well, I've got a couple of friends. I originally started out in SL football, which surprisingly is still alive. But a couple of folks. No, I didn't. I was Reapers, but I did do some training with them. I taught them a couple of things, working with them, stuff.
Okay.
But once football was kind of starting to peter out for me, I looked around for something else to do in SL because at that point it was either find a new hobby or just delete SL. And Pasta Lopez introduced me to.
Oh my God, wrestling. That's a name I haven't heard in forever. Pasta.
Yeah, Pasta's my boy. I knew him from football and knew that he was into wrestling, and finally asked him, what it was like. And so I went, checked him out over, he was wrestling over at, what was it called? Before VAW.
That's what I was going to say. That's where I actually met him and ran into him and got to know him, was in VAW, which is now Premier. So you've known him. So if you've known him that long, that means you guys have been friends for years.
Yeah, I've known Pasta about 10 years now.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So you talked to Pasta. You want to get into wrestling.
Yeah. So I checked him out at VAW and then asked, some other people about wrestling, what they thought, if they had watched it before, just kind of seeing what this SL wrestling thing was. And that led me over to VWE, and I saw a show over there, and that sold me right there.
What sold you on it?
Just the spectacle of it all, like the way VWE kind of went about things. They made it a grander stage. They made it feel. They give you the experience of like, I'm a pro wrestler. It's not just I'm in a ring doing things, or I'm playing a game or anything. You kind of got the energy behind it as well.
Right, right. It makes
So
sense.
so you're kind of hinting that that almost part of your journey with SL Wrestling is kind of what Kurt Angle has said in the past, where he was asked to join at the time WWF after he had won the
Gold
after he
medal.
won the gold medal, and he thought it was a joke until he went to the show, and then he realized exactly how great athletes they were in the pageantry and all that. So you can say you pretty much SL version of Kurt Angle, right?
A little bit. I never
Okay,
even thought about that, but yeah.
okay,
Now, were you
okay. So
Hammer? Were you a wrestling fan? Like, were you involved, like watch wrestling and everything? Were you a wrestling fan before you
Ah,
joined?
oh my god, that was probably the first thing I ever got. It was between wrestling and Chucky. Those were my first two addictions.
wow, wrestling and Chucky. Wow, speaking of Chucky, yeah, we had a conversation earlier today in open mic about a little character known as Baby Chrissy, and people want to know I'm afraid of her. And I said, "Have you ever seen Child's Play?" Enough said. Okay, so Chucky and wrestling were your two favorites. So before we get to the Aria part, let's go back into the SL. You said you went to VAW because of Posse. You went to see a VWE show, and that really hooked you. So what actually? So how did your journey actually start? Where did you actually apply to the first time?
I applied as soon as that show. I put in an application. I got accepted and had kind of a fucky night shift schedule. I was doing 2 2 2 3s, so I was only
Ooh.
able to wrestle, every other week. Um, so that kind of made stuff a little difficult. But they realized pretty early on that I could promo and I could improv really well. So promos carried me for the bulk of my time there when I first started out on Pulse until I could get the real wrestling the way I wanted to and everything like that. I got trained by I don't actually know if y'all know him. He hasn't been around in a hot minute. Matt Asadar?
Yeah, I know the
Yeah, I
name.
heard.
I
Yeah, I
never,
heard the name too.
yeah, I never knew him personally, like we're talking like now, but yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he trained me and he helped me out a lot. He's the only other person I've ever seen do it, and it's kind of something that I do with my trainees. For maybe the first 2 or 3 months after I was done training and I'm doing shows and everything like that, we still got together. We would just rewatch my match and he'd pick apart my matches with me so that I could see and review and learn from that. Like, okay, my alignments are off when I'm doing this. I need to work on getting better at, my alignment with this. Take my time in this spot or, setting up stuff like that.
So, what did you
So
find the most difficult, like in training? Like, what was the hardest thing for you to actually grasp as far as the wrestling aspect of it?
The hardest part really was getting the speed down. I was a console gamer before football, and I was only starting to get into PC more at when playing football. So I didn't have the finger dexterity that I've developed, and it was a lot rougher in the beginning. That's kind of what led me to the wrestling style that I use now, so
Yeah.
I could slow it down.
okay, so you're saying the wrestling style that you use now, what are you more like just a strong, slow type, take your
Yeah.
time during the match brawler and you don't try to speed things up, or can you adapt?
I can speed up a little bit, but I'm about 300 pounds.
See, this is like this is the thing. Like, and I've talked about this before, and Hammer gets it because I've seen Hammer wrestle a few times, more than a few times, and he knows how to wrestle based on his size. Where in SL wrestling, like the one thing I always notice with some people is like they're 6'9" and they're 300 pounds and they're wrestling a guy who's 6 foot 200 pounds and one clothesline gets him on the ground. So it's like that's a hard thing to teach in SL wrestling. One thing I shouldn't be talking about a wrestler, but just watching, it's like wow, that would never happen in real life. Like what I mean, you get the size, you understand that like all right, it's going to take you some time. It's going to take if you're especially if you're wrestling somebody smaller than you. you
Yeah.
work to your size to that. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's going to take more than a punch to knock me down. It's going to take more than a clothesline to knock me down. Like, you get that. A lot of people don't get that in SL, especially a lot of the newer people that you see coming in.
Yeah. Well, I think the one thing people don't grasp, like kind of like you said with size, they don't have a grasp of size and weight, and so they just want to get their shit in. So
Yeah.
you'll see somebody my size doing 8, 9, 10 moves in one sequence, and it's like, well, one, you should be gassed by now, and two, why are you so big if your attacks are so pillow soft? Because they should be dead.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, okay. Well, you were talking about being gas. I don't know if you've seen it or not, or if you have the ability. If you have Peacock, of course, all the WWE stuff is on there.
Yeah.
And recently, they released a behind-the-scenes, quote-unquote, making of WrestleMania 9, the
Yeah, it was
one that
really
happened
good.
in Vegas. And one of the things that they were talking about, Bret Hart was on there, and he was talking about, they had to go in and face Yokozuna, and the fact that, he says once a guy that big, once he's gassed, and they had to speed the match up, and there were some things that was left out. Mr. Fuji wasn't ready with the powder in the eyes because Yokozuna, being as big as he was, got gassed really, really quick. And that's one thing that Paul and I try to tell people when we help them, and we're saying, look, yes, we understand you want to be this great wrestler, but you also have to understand, even though it's a game, you still have to maintain a little bit of reality. You and I, my character, I'm 6'10", 275. You're 300 pounds. We're not going to be doing 15, 20-minute matches. Even against
Yeah.
smaller people, we're not going to be doing that. And then, like Paul said, and you said, people don't realize that. They want to get in and they want to have these 20-minute matches. And it's like, if you want to get your character over, make your matches and make your character believable within real means.
Right.
Okay, so you've gone through and you said that you were a gamer, and you finally, you developed the hand-eye coordination and the controls and this and that and everything else. How long, and I realize comfortability is not really something that we talk about, because if you don't, even, going into SL, if you go to the ring and you're not questioning yourself, you're not nervous, that means you don't care anymore. But when did you get to the point where you were like, okay, I've got the basics down, I can expand a little bit? When did you actually start realizing what you were able to do with your character to make it better and to get it over with within the ability? Plus, you said your promos are really good. So when did you actually put all that together in one package? Say, look, this is going to be Hammer. This is what I'm going to be.
I'm not sure exactly when I kind of I got it. I just started piecing things together, taking lessons here, lessons there. I would talk a lot as far Seth Cameron was the owner at the time. So I would talk a lot with him on like what he was looking for, what I could work on, what I needed to adjust, stuff like that. And he kind of molded me into more of the big man style. Hammer was a lot smaller, but before. So just kind of piecing everything together, and I, like a couple of other friends of mine, work best on spite. So when the whispers of I can't wrestle or anything like that started, I made a second character that was smaller and faster, and worked with like Birdie, Brackman Wilder, a couple of other guys, got my ass kicked by people who could wrestle fast, and got everything to kind of piece it together, and so that I could switch back to Hammer and say, okay, now what, motherfucker?
I like that. I like that attitude. That's really, really good. Okay, so you've been in. Okay, so you go through the training, you start developing your character. You're, in all honesty, let's be, you're cutting your teeth on this. You're making your way. When was it, or do you recall your reaction, or maybe even how it was brought up? That's like, okay, you're no longer going to be which opening match is very important too because it sets the tone for the rest of the card. Because the opening match should go out there and say, "Hey, the rest of you follow this."
Hmm.
So when did it get to where people realized, and you even realized that how good you were, and could be that you were doing that they started throwing you into more mainstream type storylines where you were in the storylines with the bigger names and this and that where you were working your way up. What was your feeling when that happened, and do you recall exactly how it happened?
Um, I don't even know if I deserved to be in the spot or what. I was on Pulse for VWE for maybe a year, and at that time, Stuart Wharf was running. He was stepping out, and Seth was coming in, and I guess one of Stu's last calls, or maybe one of Seth's first calls. I'm not sure how that all went down, but they had picked me, Rhett Sauce a lot,
God, you were
Nile
naming off some names.
Nightfire.
You had named off some names I haven't heard in years.
Yeah, yeah. Like me, Rex, Nile, and Michael Carson um picked the four of us and had us main event Wrestle Series 11. And outside of shaking like a fucking leaf the entire match, once I was able to make it through and survive, I was like, okay, I think I got this. I can do this again and not die. This is fine.
I can do this again and not die. Yeah, that's the only good thing about SL is you can play that part off. Okay, so we're just gonna go right into this. Okay, you just got to saying your first big card, you main evented Wrestle Series, and I know you didn't name drop, but you did name drop three of the biggest names that could be said in SL wrestling. So you're at this, like you said, you're shaking like a leaf, you're scared, you're worried. Now Wrestle Series is over. You got that part out of the way. Um, After that, how did your approach to your storylines change?
I am a nerd. So,
Self-awareness is the first step to rehabilitation, right?
I don't think there's any rehabilitation on this one. I actually, the majority of my free time is watching wrestling. If I'm not doing SL wrestling, I'm watching real life wrestling. If I'm not watching real life wrestling, I'm listening to real life wrestling podcasts from like Busted Open or 83 Weeks, Hall of Fame. I'm listening to all of these and hearing what they're saying. We're like, this makes sense, that makes sense, this is stupid, do it, this is how you tell a story. Story matters. Like taking in a lot of that old man ranting.
Yep.
To kind of build my mindset and my approach to how I do it.
It's funny that you mentioned old man because not to let the cat out of the bag, but I got drafted to Overload not too long ago, and I'm going to be getting a storyline with somebody, and we were discussing how we were going to do it because he's not been around as long as I have, and one of the ideas I come up with was him to come out and say, "Oh yeah, BK, by the way, I watched some of your old footage," and then he starts busting out laughing at the word "old."
By the way, spoiler alert on that.
Well, that was just an idea. That was an idea, but I get it. Okay, so you
But
watch
hold on,
wrestling all the time.
real quick. Let me say one thing.
All right.
So you say you watch podcasts. Did you watch the Triple H podcast on that Flagrant podcast?
I haven't watched any of
Dude, it's
any of that one.
Triple H is on there for like 2.5 hours. It's awesome. You gotta watch. I'll send you the link after the show. Watch it. He goes all in about everything about how became a wrestler, what he had to do. It's one of the better podcasts I ever heard, especially with Triple H.
Okay.
He was wide open on it. It was really good. But go ahead. Sorry,
Okay.
BK.
Oh no, I didn't forget what I was going to say because Hammer was talking about some of the old footage, watching all the watching real life wrestling, and I'm sure he brings that into SL. So with that being said, that's actually a pretty good segue because if you've listened to any of our previous episodes, we talk about what things seem to be missing or what we think people have gotten away from. You said right at the beginning that what helped you was your promos, which means your promos went into your storytelling, and you just got done saying that you pulled a lot from what people were doing to say, hey, this really worked. I can twist it, I can manipulate it, still make it my story, but kind of, take samples.
Right.
So with that being laid out there, do you agree with what we have said in the past that people have gotten way too much away from telling stories and wanting to build their characters because they're and I'm just going to say it because they think that the only way they can be validated is if they hold a title. Do you feel storytelling needs to be more important and to put the titles to the side and the titles will come into play when the time is right?
I don't think it's as much an issue of, well, I think it is an issue of kind of like you're saying, but I think it's more from the approach of, I think folks only know how to tell stories from a first person perspective. And what you see is a lot of people, they struggle with, okay, I'm doing this. This is what's going on with my character. This is how all these things affect my character. They don't consider the ramifications of how that affects this other character on the side, or this other person, or the downfall of that, or where that can lead. They just think about, okay, I'm on this path. I face this person. They're gone. I face this person. They're gone. And now I'm the champion. And then what?
Right.
Well,
yeah.
then after that, and here's something else, and this is something Paul and I were actually talking about before you logged in today, is that you I understand what the importance of a title should be. Okay, I understand it completely, but we have been talking about people that they come in, they win a title, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Well, I don't want to lose it. I'm not going to lose it. I'm not," because they all think they're Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns. And is that part of what you were saying about first person point of view? That's saying I'm only worried about what's in it for me instead of saying, okay, well, if I do this and I do this, it's going to be better for the show. It's going to open this up and people could follow. Is that what you're talking about as far as only looking at it from one person's point of view and that's from their personal point of view as opposed to looking at it from a fan's point of view?
Right. Definitely. And right now I'm, head of creative for Honor Pro. And one of the things that I talk about, like with my team and what we tell people as we're crafting stories and feuds and everything, is like, this is more so the story of Honor Pro and the different people in and out. These are the main characters right now. And then, these are the main characters. Kind of like Game of Thrones, people die off, you have returns, people go away for a little bit, stuff like that.
But you can't pull a Game of Thrones where everybody that you like gets taken out right away and everybody you dislike rides it all the way for 6 seasons.
Yeah, true.
You can't do that. you can't do that to us.
I think like the best answer I had, the best answer we had on the show is gonna, and he's in the chat now listening, is from Basil Winlow. And when we asked him that about like the belts, people wanting belts, and his response was, "I'll just give him the fucking belt. There you go. Here's a fucking belt. Get the fuck out." Like it's not just about the belt. It's about building up the story, building up your character, building up to where the company, like where you're running Honor, like where your vision is to see where it's going to go. You know what I mean? Like it's not about the belt. It's about the storyline. It's about how you tell the story. It's about getting people interested and intrigued in what's going on. You agree with that?
Right. Yes, absolutely. That is my entire approach. Even when, and I see them in here. Tani is part of my booking team, and even Tani was like, "Well, what the fuck are you talking about?" Because we start our booking chat, and it's like, "Okay, in game 4, who do we want to walk out as our champion?"
See, I was just talking about this, BK.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You said, it's amazing. I'm going to take a jab at Tani because I respect him a whole lot. But you said Tani's your booker. I didn't even know Tani could read a book. No, let's book a card. What the hell were you thinking on that one? Oh, boy. Tani. I love you too.
Yeah, I agree with that approach. Like I like with OEW, like we be in November, and like Jess is in here, she'll tell you, like we're in November, and I'm like, all right, Immortality's our big show. What's going to be our main? What's going to be at least our title matches? Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
what are where? And that's what we had to work towards. And then the problem is like you have that vision, and I dealt with a few people like this where listen, I got to take the belt off here, going to give it to this person, and they were like, well, for what? And like, what do you mean for what? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I had to get this position here to get to this position here to get to this goal. You know what I mean? Like, I have a plan going forward. A lot of people in SL wrestling and like they don't understand that because it's like when they feel when you take a belt off somebody, they automatically feel that it's like a slide to them. Like you're just basically thinking they weren't good or what everything else, and they take it super personal.
Yes. Everything is so fucking personal. Everything is personal. Everybody takes so much offense because like and I saw it a lot more on the furry side once I started doing more hybrid wrestling and wrestling over there because you'd see a lot more like folks would take their OCs. They were like, okay, I've been this character. I've played this Sona for 3, 4, 5 years. This is me. You know, this is the person that I identify as. And then they put that person in a ring. And then they lose, and it's like, well, why aren't I good enough? And they start taking major offense because, like, why are you saying that they aren't there? And like, no, that's not it. We're playing a role. You're fulfilling a role to tell a story. You're pushing a narrative, but so much difficulty in separating those two.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of people like one of the biggest things is a lot of, and I get it, and look, I get it, and I understand why people have this perspective. When you're in Honor, so you're the head booker of Honor, you're the head of creative, right? So your main focus is Honor Pro Wrestling. What can we do best for Honor Pro Wrestling, right? So you're looking at it at a perspective of everybody, not just for yourself. So you want to get to that goal, and then you have a lot of people that you're dealing with that are looking at whatever they're doing just for themselves and not for the bigger picture.
Right.
And that's always been my biggest pet peeve. And me and BK were like literally just talking about this before the show.
Yeah, because one of the things that we were talking about, and a matter of fact, Tiesa, she put it down here in the chat where it says, or they don't want to drop a belt because they constantly lose to someone else in another Fed.
It's true.
And and it is true because we have run into people that do that. They're like, well, I wrestle this person over here, and then I come over here and I win a title, and then you want to drop. It's like you need to learn to separate the two Feds. You can be in two different Feds and do two completely different things because it's two completely different visions. And stop thinking of it as, oh, they're going to let me get over this person over here, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to job to them. No, there's a reason for it. You do you over there. You do whatever Fed you're in over there. But over here, this is the vision that we have, and this is what we're going to do. Quit, like I said, quit taking it so personal. It's only a story.
Yeah.
That's all
I'll
it is.
tell
It's
them
a
pretty
story.
bluntly that ain't got nothing to do with me. I don't have control over booking anywhere except for Honor Pro. And so I don't care about anything except for booking over at Honor Pro.
Yep. Yeah, that's how you have to. I mean, I've got told sometimes talking to people, I'm like, hey, listen, we need you. Well, I lose to my alt over at this Fed all the time. Like, all right, we're not talking about your alt. We're talking about your character right now. I don't give a shit how many people you lost to. We're trying to tell a story here, and it's like you're constantly fighting and bickering over that nonsense. And that's the shit that stresses you out with this stuff. Because you're just like, what the fuck, man? Like, it's just, you pull your hair out sometimes.
Well, and it's not just that, but people, one thing that I think that, just my personal opinion is that, like for instance, I'll use myself, okay? There was one point in time where, and now that everybody knows, about the alts and all that, but I actually had another alt that was intentionally designed to be a jobber alt. The only part that alt was supposed to play was to come in and fucking get squashed. I knew what the role of that alt was. Well, then you had my other two characters. You had myself and you had Insidious. And at that time, very few people knew that I was Insidious. They thought it was actually somebody else. Well, Then they come out, they're like, well, wait a minute, you're over here as BK, or you were over there as Insidious, and you're in main event matches, and you're, doing promos, and then you're over here and you're jobbing. It's like, you don't understand. I separate it because it's two different places, two different characters. I know what the role of each character is, and I stay in that lane. And I think that's what a lot of people feel. It's like, well, you know that I'm behind it, so it's the same person. So this person should get the same privileges or get the same leniency or get the same push for two different characters. It's like, no, you don't. You do what is needed for the show.
Yep. All right, so
Okay.
Hammer. Or go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. You got it.
So we bitched about enough things in SL wrestling for right now. So how did you? What was one of your first? And we asked. I always ask this because I always like hearing it. But like, what is one of your first memories of wrestling? Like, what was one of the first things that you said? Holy shit! Like, this is it. This is it. It got you hooked.
Oh man, you just had him on, Lady Death.
Really?
Yeah. One of my they put me over on Pulse first day on Pulse. I've got a match against Vince Easterwood, and there's a promo before my match with Vince, and I see Lady Death coming out with the voice going.
I'm sorry. I was high the other day when we were talking to her, and she started talking, and I lost it. So I'm with you.
Yeah. She had the voice going, and she had the Crisis on the leash, and I'm like, well, what the fuck is going on here? Okay.
At Crisis on, oh my god! So okay, so now we've heard about Crisis being on a leash, and then of course we heard about the first time that I ever worked with, with Natalie, known as Nataz, and we're finding out all kinds of stuff about Chris. We're finding all kinds of stuff. He was on a leash. He was nicknamed a woman. What the hell? Poor guy. I didn't realize he'd been through so much. Oh wow. Okay. So we might as well go ahead and get this right. Go ahead. I'm just going to get this right out of the way.
All right.
You know what question is coming, so you might as well start thinking about it. Favorite SL opponent, person you would want to have a dream match with, and favorite kind of match, or what would your dream match be?
Ooh.
There it is. There it is.
There it is. I think we need to put a disclaimer, at the beginning of the show. That when somebody come on here, we need to put a little disclaimer that says, be ready to answer these 4 questions.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
All right. Let me see. Favorite opponent. That's tough.
There have been people that's had more than one answer, so that's acceptable. And then you have people that's like, look, there's just one. So if you have more than one, that's fine. But
you know what it is? You know what I think it is with a lot of people? It's like they don't
want to hurt somebody's feelings.
They don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings. Exactly. That's what I think.
Oh no, I don't give a fuck about that.
I like this guy already.
Like there's so many different people out there. Okay. Ray's probably one of my favorites, I will say. The story I told with Ray that first year of Honor, I genuinely feel like that storyline is kind of what helped get us to where we are. And there isn't a thing he can't do. He can come up with a 5-star match out of nowhere. I've always been able to cook up a banger with Rex.
Rex
I could Rex and I, we trained together. So, we kind of went back and forth with each other, working out new ideas, coming up with stuff for one another. And he helped get me to where I am big time. Always great wrestling him. What was the other part?
Dream match.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, there was a two-part question, two parts of that. The one is, what has been your favorite match? Now, I'm not saying your opponent, but your favorite type of match, and what is the type of match that you would be your dream match, one you haven't had yet in SL? Because who was it we asked, and the first thing off their answer was they want to do a triple cage match.
Yeah.
My favorite is the Fight Pit. I fucking love doing Fight Pit matches.
Okay.
That's
Okay. You're gonna have to explain that one.
So Fight Pit is kind of like an MMA cage almost. So it's a cage, there's no ropes. There is a platform above the ring at the top of the cage where you can also get up and do stuff. It's narrow enough. It's narrow enough for you to stand on and to take a slam on, but that's about the extent of what you can do.
So you're telling me that this Fight Pit match is basically a combination of a UFC and a scaffold match?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've seen
And how-
their matches. They're pretty cool, actually.
Okay, now the other day, Lady Death, because you're talking about the direct matches, and this is why I'm getting into this. She said that she had what was what was it she called that match? It was the
I was so distracted at the end of that BK. I don't even know what happened the first 45 minutes.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I can't remember what she called
Yeah.
it, but it was a combination of using it was some kind of satanic match, but it was where you could not
You had to
attempt
bleed.
a
You had to
pin
bleed
on your opponent.
until they
Right. You
bled.
could not attempt. Yeah, you could not attempt any pins on your opponent unless you made them bleed. So they combined a normal match with a little bit of the first blood rules match. So with this pit match you're talking about, now we got two different kind of matches going. Is it a TKO match? Is it a knockout? Is it submission? Is it pin? How does it even work?
Yep. Only win by tap or knockout.
Oh, and that I guess that includes if you knock somebody off the little scaffolding and they hit the back of their head on the mat below that has no give whatsoever, knocks themselves out, you win.
Yeah. Well, there's a hand railing, so you shouldn't go out.
Oh, I was talking about no. What I was talking about is like you get the scaffold over the middle of it and you get knocked off either side and you just fall down to the mat.
Oh yeah.
I tell you what, y'all come up with some dangerous satanic shit, don't you? Y'all some sadistic motherfuckers up in here.
This is WWE. WWE started this one.
Well, actually, the first scaffold match was back in the old NWA
85.
days.
Night of
Back in
Skywalker.
85. During Starrcade, it was the Road Warriors and the original Midnight Express, because that was the night that Jim Cornette hung off of the bottom of that scaffold and fell and blew both of his knees out.
Night of the Skywalkers, that was called.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, that's right, Hammer. We're that old. That's why I was saying. That's why I was saying the whole funny thing about the spoiler about the. Oh, I watched some of your old matches and start laughing at the word old. yeah, we are that old that we have some old history that we always like to talk about too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Dream Match isn't as much of match type as I have a lot of family in SL wrestling. I jokingly say that I'm part of the SL Anoa'i family. I am the highest fuck chief.
Okay, I love that. Okay, I like that one. I'm gonna remember that.
I would love to be able to have a match of like just my family. Like I call us all House Hammer, but
Okay.
I would love to just have a match, just House Hammer. Like there's so many of us as far as wrestlers, managers. You know, Lockett's a new wrestler. It's my granddaughter, my son Richie Rich. My daughter Sage is manager. She runs our Sister Fed. She's the NC our in character runner of Unrivaled Wrestling Universe. Um, Jesus Christ, Ray's my brother. Like there, Miss Rose, there's an excessive amount of people in my family.
Sounds like a battle royal.
Yes.
King of the Hill.
Yeah, but if you also think about it, we had Zay on here a few weeks ago, and same question was posed to him, and his whole thing was him and his tag team partner doing a gauntlet through the whole roster.
VWE roster. Yeah.
Right, and then after him, I don't remember if Honey answered this question or it was Lady Death because we asked them pretty much the same thing. And it was one of them that answered that basically said the same thing that they want to be in a match where they have to take on a whole group of people. What is this whole thing with everybody wanting to take on everybody? Do y'all have like some dysfunctional issues that we don't know about?
Listen, fights can be very therapeutic.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel most amazing after I get punched in the face.
Yep. Brings you clarity.
What?
Yeah.
You get punched in the face and feel better about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come on,
Okay.
okay? You ever know, like when you were a kid and you even know he's your best friend and you guys were having beef and you start fist fighting, you beat each other up, and then after your words, you're like, all right, man, we're good now. And then you just move on. I mean, that's.
Yeah, but I never felt good about getting hit in the face.
I mean, I don't want to get hit in the face.
No, nobody does.
I'm gonna hit you back, but afterwards, it's just kind of like, okay.
Okay, you just got done saying that you would like to basically have a great big huge battle royal with your family. Okay.
Yes.
So without hurting anybody's feelings and to be just genuinely honest, put it out there. If you only had to be, if you were only able to choose one of your family members to have a final match with, who would it be?
It'd be my son, Richie.
Is he that good, or is it just the fact you want him to, or you'd go out and you do the thing and put your son over?
Both, honestly. He's outstanding in the ring, and he's just as good, if not better, on the mic. He's just a puppy right now, so overly eager and all over the place. But
So
yeah,
how
no,
long how long has he been doing this?
2 years.
Oh, he's still, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
He's still getting his feet wet.
And he came over from 2K.
Oh, nice.
Oh, and see, we've heard that quite a few times. Never mentioned on the show, but a lot of people, I do know that a lot of people that are wrestling in SL. I know a lot of them do play like WWE 2K and 25. However it's set up now. I've heard that a lot. So by doing that and then coming over and doing it, I realize they're games. Both of them are games. One of them has got a little bit less limitation, or it seems like it, than the other one does. But with him coming from the 2K stuff, what was his, what did he sit down and talk to you and say, hey, this is a lot like this, or this isn't like this, or is there any way where we can make it be more like this? Was that ever a conversation where you tried to figure out how to expand on wrestling?
He's good. He came in with already out of the gate good at promoing. He had it out like right away on that, so that came directly from 2K, and he's gotten more and more into video editing. That like he started doing it with 2K and dove deeper in once he came over to SL, and he is very fucking good at combining the two. So you'll see a lot of different videos and with 2K cutscenes of his characters pulling off stuff or doing it in Second Life or pose and just combining the two.
All right, so let's take a quick break here. I'm going to do the sponsors, but we have a question that is waiting for you, and we're going to get to that and get your opinion. But anybody else that is listening right now, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them into open mic, and we will get to them as soon as possible. So we want to thank you all for listening to us on Dark Star Radio at darkstarradio.com. Sponsors, Aaron's Domain, Limitless Pro Wrestling, aka LPW, and Premier Wrestling. Want to thank you all so much for this. Make sure you all like and subscribe and help us get this podcast out there and show people that we are actually doing more than just SL stuff. Every like, every subscribe is going to help us out tremendously.
Yep.
Okay, so let's look at this question here. And the question, as a matter of fact, your booker, Tani. So this is the question. They said, I'm very curious to know how long someone can be doing this, speaking of SL wrestling, because of what I mentioned about the rookie, and said still be considered quote unquote new and quote unquote getting their feet wet, especially given all the advancements and improvements that have been made technologically across the grid. Because there are some people that they have seen, being Tani, that just their words, pop the fuck off under 2 years experience, and then some people who've got this great resume and they don't act on it. What do you feel is one of these that, with what Tani said, that, how long would you consider somebody to be new and still getting their feet wet? And, she mentioned the thing was mentioned about, popping off after 2 years, and then some people who just don't act on it. How would you, the people that act on it and get over, that's easy to notice. That's easy to see. Some people got it, some people don't. But
Right.
what do you say to the ones who are like, well, I'm still getting my feet wet? How long do you give them on that? And how do you say, look, you've got this great resume. Why don't you do something with it? Hammer, how would you react to handling somebody like that?
I don't think there is one right answer to that question, honestly. I considered I didn't start considering myself as a quote unquote veteran until like a year or two ago. I always felt like I didn't know enough, or there was still a lot more to learn or anything like that. So I was always very hesitant to ever say that I was a veteran, especially when I'm talking to folks who've been doing it for 10 plus years. Um but on yeah, right. But on that same hand, kind of like Tani said, there are people who have the resume and don't act it. I feel like that kind of just comes down to the newer person being able to differentiate, because you're gonna see veterans who have the resume but don't act it or things like that because they can't keep up with technology advancements, things like that. They popped off at that point in time, and that was their moment. And they didn't realize their moment passed them by, and they live off that old accolade.
That's a good
Just gotta,
answer.
you just got to look at look at the veterans who are still doing it, and just follow that.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that also that I feel that needs to be brought up is, yeah, you have veterans, and in all honesty, however you consider yourself, the rookies, however you want to categorize yourself, who have really good resumes. I've wrestled in Premier, I've wrestled in VWE, and for some of the, Hawks and WPWF, and they've got these great known feds that yes, I've wrestled, but then you have to start thinking about, okay, why so many feds? Are you just stretching out where you're wrestling out, or was there something reason you were let go from one and then so there's a whole bunch of questions that always come up about having great resumes, because you really, in all honesty, with the way things are, even when I first started, you almost have to be a private investigator and find out if the person is legit or if they're just one of those that hop from fed to fed because they like to stir drama, they like to cause drama, and all they're doing
Yeah.
is hop from fed to fed. Oh yeah, I worked here. Well, what'd you do? Oh, I went through training and got to be in 4 matches. Okay, well that doesn't mean that you were in the fed. That means you were there.
And then you got those folks, I won't name any names, but we all know that there's folks who will join a Fed, get a belt, soon as it's time to leave the Fed, join a new Fed, rinse, repeat, and then once they've run the circuit, that's when they spin the block.
Yeah, exactly. And then, and then all of a sudden they want to know, well, why doesn't anybody want me? Well, let's see. You were in 6 feds, you had 5 titles, You won the title on a Sunday, and by the following Sunday, you got mad and you quit. So you left the Fed high and dry. Who would want you in this Fed?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you were going
Yeah,
to say something,
so
Paul.
let's talk about honor a little bit. So how did so it's got to be a two-part question. So how did honor start? And I mean, everybody in the SL community knows a lot of the stuff, with Liar and everything. How do you handle that? Because I know Liar is a big part of, honor.
I don't. Not really. I that doesn't sound right.
Well, I mean, saying like a lot of like, I mean,
Um,
you got to be under a rock not to know like about like how does that affect you, like you being the creative, you being a big part like you are in honor. Does that affect you in any way of all the stuff that's said around the community about like things like I'm not going to get into all the things, but about some of the the allegations or whatever going around.
no, it doesn't. So I I've asked Birdie about what or Lyra about what they do. They've shown me as much as I have asked and have wanted to see. They've gotten my confidence in everything as far as what I've asked them, and the rest of that is their livelihood. I can't force them to give up what they do to make their money. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah, I understand.
So I trust in the work that he's doing. I don't see a lot of what is said. So I focus on Honor Pro, putting on good shows, telling great stories, and trying to expand our reach.
Yeah, I mean, I went to your 100th episodes, and yeah, man, I've told BK this story. Like, I usually go to shows. I usually like to reduce lag. I turn off like a lot of the stuff and everything. That one night I went there to watch it, and I had everything on, and I was like, Jesus Christ! Like I was just like kind of blown away, like with all the effects and everything. Because like again, I have that shit turned off, and when I seen it, I was just like, wow, man, this is unbelievable. And then I had it on the screen because you were live streaming it, and then I was like, how the fuck are they showing replays? I can barely get this freaking podcast right, and they're showing replays.
That's all Birdie.
Yeah,
He saw a need for us in stepping up the video part of things for and the visual aspect, and it's kind of a challenge. It's kind of a competition between us. I'll come up with an idea and he'll say I can't do that. I was like, I understand. That's out of your skill set. I understand. Everybody's got their limitations. And then he gives me the finger and figures out a way to do it.
Oh, Birdie gives somebody the finger. Imagine that.
yeah, I was blown away, man. I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. Yeah, that whole replay thing. I was like, Jesus Christ, how the hell did they do that?
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Okay, so this is something that we've that the show itself, and mainly it's probably me because of the questions. Yeah, it probably really is because Paul always, like I said, Paul accuses me of being the sniper. But one of the things that we have discussed on numerous episodes, especially the one with Eric Stewart, and we're going to be mentioning this several times, so we're not being broken records. It's just very relevant. Eric broke it down, and he said that right now in SL Wrestling, in a week, people have the option of 56 hours of wrestling in SL, and that's every show coming on this day, and the show's supposed to be this time, and everything else. And I asked this question of people, and I can ask you direct, and this is direct because you're going to understand the struggle because Paul and I have had to deal with this too. As creative, do you do the right thing and go and check out other people's shows, not to copy what they're doing, but to see what they're doing and saying, okay, this is catching on. What can I do that doesn't necessarily copy, but it takes a piece of it, and then I can develop my own? Because we need people to come to our show, so we need to stand out. What steps do you take? Do you do stuff like that so people are coming to honor because you have something either fresh or new or even exciting to offer based on what you've seen from other people? Or do you just say, hey, this is an idea I have. If somebody else has had it, fuck them, I'm going to do it anyway?
I really don't pay attention to other people's creative stuff like that. I'll come check out a story or I'll come check out a match if it's someone I know, if it's something that catches my eye across social media, things like that. But with there's so many people that are in multiple feds, there's so much of that being intertwined, you're gonna get that overlap regardless. You don't have to necessarily watch other people's stuff. It's people are creatures of habit.
Right.
So I feel like watching other people's stuff too intently is just going to kind of paint my perspective in that direction as well. Rather than do that, I consume a lot more real life wrestling, and I do that with the Honor team. There's always going to be a handful of us at least once a week watching some real life wrestling together.
Now, do you ever get to
Fair enough.
do you ever get to the like? I know I've done this. Like I've gone to shows, not so much to get like to see what people are doing, but to see like I have a million ideas go through my head daily, and like and again, TS can tell you this too. Again, like I'll come up with something, and I'm like, I got this great idea, and like I write it all out, and then I go to like say a VW show, and I'm like, fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're kind of doing what I thought of, and I'm like, nah, I got to think of something different. Like, I always used to go to shows so I wouldn't make sure I wasn't copying, like, anybody else was doing the same things I was doing. And it's never really happened much, but, like, there's been times where I've been somewhere, I'm like, that's way too similar. Like, you know what I mean? I got to come up, like, go to the drawing board again. Like, I'll see something or hear something or whatever. Like, you don't, like, even look at that to make sure, like, other people aren't doing the same thing. And again, too, with real life wrestling, like, do you ever had like people come in and they see something? Because I dealt with this too, where they're seeing something going on. Like my big thing was I don't really wrestle. I'm a manager. My whole thing is just cutting promos. And I think like people think I'm good at it, and I appreciate that, and they want me to come and be their manager, and it's like, yo, come and be my wise man. I'm like, all right, well, that there's only one wise man. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Paul, we can't necessarily put the word "wise" and you in the same
no,
sentence,
never.
can we?
Come and be my idiot. Come and be my idiot. Then I would say, yeah, man, I'll be your idiot.
Well,
But like,
but
do you ever
see,
have that? Like, do you ever have that where people are like see something on TV and they're like, hey, I got an idea. Let's do like boom, 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 and it's something that was already done, say on AEW or WWE. You ever have that problem, like as being the creative?
Yeah, no, it's happened. Helios is our resident conspiracy theorist that swears up and down that Tony Khan is watching Honor Pro for ideas.
Hey, you never
Yeah,
know.
there's definitely some overlap. You got the Bad Apple Tracy Harris as well as Bad Apple Brian Keith.
okay, so, and we're still talking about the creative thing because Paul and I've had these conversations, and this still falls into what we're talking about. That it's very, and I'm not gonna lie, it is. I'm gonna say it's almost impossible for any of us in SL to do any kind of storyline that has not been seen in real life.
Right.
Just like there was a comment that was left up here by Tawny that says, as Oliver Wonderful often says, nothing is original in pro wrestling. We're all copying the Japanese one way or another. Now,
Yes.
I'm going to go through, and yes, I totally agree with that. But there's also one of those things that it's very hard to come up with storylines that we haven't seen before. Like Paul, you and I were involved in the storyline, where you abducted me, when we brought Insidious in. We're not the first people to ever do a abduction type storyline, regardless of what it was. But when we did it, we put the extra in there, like the day that were supposedly outside the building and you were out there trying to get in, and I get up off the comms table, and the next thing you know, you actually see me on the video footage.
Yeah.
That's something
We try to
nobody
do
had ever.
different stuff. I mean,
Yeah, that was something that nobody had ever. Not that they hadn't done that, but we just added a detail there that nobody else had. So, Hammer, listening to that and understanding it's very hard not to copy something, but you said that you don't go around and go to other feds. But do you not think that that might be beneficial? Because some feds, and I'm not going to say all of them, but some feds end up doing what is a very common phrase called cookie cutter storylines, where it's like they'll do storylines for 1 or 2 seasons, and then they'll try something different, and then they basically go back and do the same thing because they either don't want to try to be creative or they can't be creative. What
Well,
is your take on that?
I don't only use my perspective. I have an amazing booking team. So there's multiple perspectives, there's multiple storylines coming in, and really with Honor, I'm when I say I'm head of creative, I'm not wholesale coming up with these storylines.
Right.
Our team is coming up with them. The wrestlers themselves are telling the stories and portraying their characters in the way that they want to portray their characters, telling the stories that they want to tell. We just point them in a direction. So let's say I'll take Tani and put Tani against you, BK.
Okay.
I put you two together and say, all right, it's going to be you guys for this long. You got this many matches to work with. Give me a story. And you can make up whatever you want. I just pick your opponent. And make sure once you guys are done writing your story that the continuity of everything makes sense, that it doesn't step on the toes of any other storylines going on. And then when I put the booking out, I'll try to see where I can overlap with other storylines, where I can, combine a promo to streamline things, combine a match, whatever, to, keep everything nice and tight. But otherwise, you tell the story you want to tell.
Now, because
Okay.
of you doing it like that, right? Like, do you say, all right, Paul and BK, you're in a match. At the end, BK goes over, and you have the reason why he's going over too, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end, yeah, okay. Because that's
Yeah.
sometimes that's an issue when you tell people. Like I remember trying to keep it a secret. I knew where I wanted to go, but I was afraid to hurt that person's feelings to tell them that they were going to lose at the end. You know what I mean? Like that was again because they take it personal.
Yeah, no, I tell them they get all of that right up front as soon as they get put in the feud. Okay, this is who's going over.
Okay, so being creative and you doing this for a while, and just listen to you, I know for a fact that you know how stories are supposed to be developed and written. In your personal opinion, how long should a feud go? Now, I understand that things happen, and I understand sometimes it's just the chemistry, and like okay, we're going to try this for a season, put them together for a cycle, and see how it works. And I understand sometimes chemistry just doesn't happen, but
Mhm.
in your opinion, if you have the right two characters in a particular storyline, regardless if you have somebody that's going after the title or it's a personal thing, kind of like what happened, with like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, it's all been the best friends, best enemies and stuff like that.
Right.
In your personal opinion, how long should a storyline run so that both people get over, they get their characters developed, and they get people vested? Do you think that 4 weeks is long enough to actually tell a story?
It can be. It depends on the story that you're trying to tell. I honestly think you let people cook as long as they're cooking, in as many cases as you're able to. Because you may see a story pop off. You may see something off of a random match. It was like, hey, we need to build on that. We need to keep this going. Sometimes lightning just strikes.
Yeah.
But then also sometimes the opposite happens and you try to get rolling and you hit a giant wall. You got to be flexible.
Or well, like what happened with Paul and I when we come back and we were in OEW, when we started that whole thing where I made the comeback, and we kept that secret for months. Nobody knew what was going on, but we brought it in, and I hate saying this because it sounds like I'm bragging, and I'm not. It's
You
just
are.
the truth.
You are. You're bragging.
Shut up! I am not. But when we came in and we first did that very first face-to-face shoot promo, and we were bringing out real life stuff, and people honestly thought that we did not like each other. They thought this was real stuff coming out in front of everybody in SL Wrestling. And we got not a lot, but there was a little because we wanted to carry it out because there was so much history. And they're like, you may carry it out too far. You might want to, don't carry it out too far. So we carried it for like 3 cycles, and we could have carried it more, but then Paul was like, well, we need to give him a break from this. But we were able to carry a storyline for 3 cycles and had people invested. I am not bragging, LD. Shut up.
He's bragging.
I am not. It's not bragging if it's true. But I'm just saying, they allowed us to carry that one out for 3 cycles. And people were invested because we were talking about the past.
Well,
We
I
were
mean,
bringing out things.
the big thing was, I mean, he's here too. I don't like talking about the shit, but Casey King hit me up and he's like, "Hey, I don't know what the past is going on, but BK's back. He just friend requested me, and we already planned this." And I'm like, "You know what? You can be friends with any you want, but I'll never be friends with that fucking asshole again."
Yeah. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I understand, that, Paul and I, we were given a little bit of leniency because the people that were in charge trusted that we could carry it out and we could make it interesting, which we did. And there are people who can carry storylines out, and they have certain views and to me, it's a lot of times they don't let the stories develop. It's just like, okay, we're going to put you in here, and in an 8-week period, you need to establish why you're mad at this person, why you're going at it, and then we'll tell you what the ending is going to be. Who's going to win the final match, who's going to do that. It's like, give a little bit of lenience in there and see what happens. Then if something doesn't happen, or somebody gets hurt or whatever, which happens quite a bit, somebody gets sick, somebody gets hurt, or the storyline is, then you figure out a way that you can end it, and then you have a backup plan to it.
Yeah.
So back to the question, like Tanya just says, yes, the stories get rushed and fall flat because it's undercooked. If somebody were to come up to you, Hammer, and say, okay, you're creative, this is what we want to do. We're going to put Paul and BK together. We're going to put you and Baza together. We're going to put
So hold on, real quick, BK. If that's the case, I'm going to send you a side message saying I don't want to work with that fucking asshole again.
Anyway, but okay, then let's say that they put Tiesa and Emma together, and they'll say, okay, we need these are your big names. We need these stories carried out long enough to get people invested. In your personal opinion, even if you didn't know any of us, but you could just go and say, hey, what kind of people are these? Can they carry storyline? Can they carry good matches? Can they do this? And somebody comes up and says, yes, they can. In your opinion, what would be a acceptable minimum amount of time to get the story developed so that people are invested and they want to keep coming back every single week to find out what the hell's going to happen next?
I think 4 is the minimum. And if you're doing 4, and especially if you're doing 4 to try to get that to like a free preview or something like that, you got to hit hard and fast in the beginning, and just you're gonna have to rapid fire through some stuff. But yeah, no, I think 4 is the minimum. We typically, our storylines run anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
No.
I mean, you look at it though, it's 2 months. Like 2 months is legit. I mean, that's not bad. I mean, that's you could tell a decent story in that time frame.
Right.
Well, yeah, but it's also, I've mentioned to it before, and and a lot of times, people will tell me, well, you've mentioned that before. Yes, there are things that I mentioned before, but it seems like every conversation we have, it becomes relevant. Chris Jericho on one of the Monday night, the WCW Monday Night War episodes, he made a statement that I had been saying for a while, being in SL Wrestling, and I'll say it now. You can write and you can have the best storyline that's ever been written down on a piece of paper, and it can be like Pulitzer Prize material. But if you don't have the right characters, the story's going to fall flat.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that they want to rush them because they're like, we just want to get through it. But it's like you're rushing to get through these stories, but yet you're not actually taking the time to get to know the characters and figure out what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, and then you can actually build, like you said, an 8-week, a 2-month storyline based on that. And you can, and anybody's, the strength you build on that, and you get this. We don't like them because they seem to can't win because they always have to take the cheap way out. You got to give them something to latch on to, whether they dislike the people or they like them. And 4 weeks to me is way too rushed.
I feel that. I'm of the opinion though that people don't maximize on their opportunities. I feel like unless people are put into a dedicated storyline, they don't think about the random interaction. They don't think about this one off that can be used to promote that narrative, that can be used to promote a story in the periphery, so that by the time something is brought into the forefront, the story's already been there.
That's a great point.
Right.
That's a really good
Yeah,
point.
totally. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are just about out of time. Hammer, this is the part of the show which you don't get put on the spot, but you kind of do. This is the opportunity that if you have any kind of information that you wish to pass, any words of wisdom that you want to pass on to anybody interested in getting into SL wrestling, coming into SL, or even those of us who've been in there, is there any words of wisdom, any guidance, anything that you would like to leave us with?
As far as Honor Pro, we've got a lot going on. We are just about 3 weeks away from Gold Rush, which is going to be our last free preview before in-game cycle. We've got some big events coming up, a couple of road shows. We're planning an appearance at SL22 birthday. We're planning an appearance at Sci-Fi Con. And then we're also, when we do in-game, are going to be working with Relay for Life this year. Nice. So we're we're gonna take Infinity Con, do it even bigger than we have in previous years, so that everybody gets the full experience, the special build. We're looking to bring in other feds to put on shows. We're looking to bring in combat sports of all types, boxing, MMA, everything that there is. I want it to be a major festival dedicated to live entertainment and sports.
So let us ask you, Hammer. Like, we'd love to be a part of that. Come down, talk to people from Honor, talk to people from anywhere you want. Me and BK and the fourth wall here. We'd love to be a part of that Infinity Con if you let us.
Oh, absolutely! You guys are more than welcome.
There you go, BK. See what I'm doing?
I know you're always doing the networking. You let me ask the hard questions, and then you come in with the thing about, oh, okay, well, we're all going to be friends. We're just all going to sit down and have a beer together. Well, of course, Hammer and I sit down and have a beer together. But sit down and have a beer together, and like, yeah, BK, go ahead and ask her the hard questions. You be the asshole. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for us today on The Fourth Wall. Please make sure to like. Please make sure to subscribe. And hey, I checked it out earlier. We are up to, what was it, 86 or 87? We got
87, I think.
We're up to 87.
Emmett Gray usually fills us in during these shows. What we're up to, I think we're like 87.
Yeah, she's slacking. Yeah, we're at 87 right now, and we are still aiming for 100 subscribers. And when we do, we have a huge giveaway that is scheduled. So please help us get up to that 100 subscriber number, and you are going to get some free shit.
Tell everybody about the other one we're doing, BK. The other contest we're running right now.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so in case you haven't noticed, I created a contest event channel, and right now we have one that is set for DC side for DC Comics and one set for Marvel. What we want you all to do is go in there, and we want you to enter the contest for your respective side, whoever you like, DC or Marvel. 2 people are going to be chosen at random to represent their respective side.
Yes.
2 people on each side. That is correct. And we're going to sit down, and we're going to have a sit-down debate showdown of DC versus Marvel Universe. We're okay. I'm sorry. I was told that we were up to 90 now.
10 more.
Oh yeah, we only need 10 more, but yes, make sure you go in and get a part of that, because we definitely we're going to have some fun with this DC versus with the Marvel and DC thing. But like I said, help get the word out there. Hammer, was a great pleasure, and definitely we'll see you at this event that we're talking about. We'll get all the details, and we'll sit down and we'll get it promoted for you. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks again,
Awesome.
Hammer.
No problem. Thank you guys. You can see us anytime. Tuesday, 6 SLT. Sunday, 5 SLT. Catch our sister fed Unrivaled Wrestling Universe. Wednesdays, 4 SLT.
There you go. All right. Catch you next
All right.
week.